Hi, guys. It's Sven from Badass Counseling. So we created the Badass Counseling group on Facebook, and it grew to well over 45,000 members. And we kept getting asked by folks for a support group, a growth group that's more intimate, gives more access to me, Sven, if possible. So the Badass Counseling team got together, and they created Community Plus. For a monthly fee that isn't cheap, you get direct access to me 2 times a month where you can submit your questions directly. Monthly drawings for a small group counseling session with me. Monthly drawings for one-on-one counseling sessions with me. Priority Pass access to go to the front of the waiting list for ongoing counseling with me. Priority Pass access to be considered to be counseled by me on the Badass Counseling Show podcast. Direct access to my top 2 selling video courses, Healing the Soul and Unleashing Your Greatness. Interviews with people who've had success in their soul journey, some well-known and some everyday folks like you and me. And a fantastic opportunity to meet and get to know other men and women who take their healing and growth seriously and who do the work. And a social community feed where folks share their challenges, their struggles, and their triumph. And so much more. So go now to badasscounseling.com. Click on the Community Plus sign-up page for premium content and direct access to me and to like-minded people who are committed to healing, growth, and creating a community of support and happiness.
From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Yes, you have reached the Badass Counseling Show Lightning Round. I'm Sven Erlandson, the host of this show, and we're so glad to have you here, whether you are checking in from Warramba, Australia, or from Ontario, Canada. Maybe you're in from Texas. Wherever you're listening from, we're glad to have you here. And I'm joined by my team, Casey over in the booth, Rob the Rocket next to me. Rob, how are you today?
I'm doing well. It's exciting to be on these social media platforms live and recording this for the podcast.
I love it too.
Yeah, my social media is the bulletin board at ShopRite, but otherwise I'm ready for this.
Well, that's old school. You know, you put your card up there, you're advertising, hey, I'm mow lawns.
That's my speed.
Tear my phone number off here and I'll come mow your lawn, baby. All right, we are getting going here with questions, and I have the first one from 007.13 on TikTok, who writes, how can I parent my 8-year-old better? No punishment helps. He is very disrespectful and ungrateful. All right, simple answer is this. Children shout loudest when feeling heard least. What that means is children want, above all else, to get positive attention. Positive attention is the phrase I use. It's my substitute for the word love. I love to get love, but let's get rid of the word love. I love positive attention. I like when people look at me. I like hugs. I like kisses. I like when people listen to me. I like when people ask me follow-up questions, not just, hey, how you doing? I love positive attention. And I am a grown man. Right? So how much more so a child? And here's the thing, though. If a child can't get positive attention, they will settle for negative attention. They're not doing this consciously, but they will. If they've tried so hard to get positive attention by being good, and they don't get the positive attention or don't get enough, or if they feel that they're not being treated fairly, like someone else is getting more positive attention, or if someone is hurting their feelings, they will do things that get them negative attention. Or if they feel they're being neglected, they will do things that get negative attention, like be a bad boy or be a bad girl, or yell or shout, or be rude or not listen, or stick their tongue out. Why? Why would someone want negative attention? Again, this isn't a conscious thought. I'm going to stick my tongue out and make mom really mad. No. Why? Well, maybe sometimes, but generally no. Why would somebody want negative attention? Because negative attention, even though I want positive attention, negative attention is better than no attention. Why? Because no attention means you don't exist. And it feels better to hear you're bad than it does to hear you don't exist. Because you're bad is a value statement. You have less value. You don't exist is an existential statement. You simply aren't there. At least when you're saying you're bad, you're looking at me. You notice me. You're conscious of my existence. You're at least worthy of being yelled at. They used to tell us in football in high school back in Fridley, Minnesota, that the players that the coaches are yelling at, they actually give a shit about. It's if you're not getting yelled at, if you're not getting corrected, then you got to worry, because it means the coaches don't give a shit. Next question. I've got one here from Victor Montanaro, and this is on Facebook. Victor asked a question. It's a rather long one. Hey, Sven, I'm a therapist in New Jersey and take a lot of inspiration and influence from you. Hey, thanks, Victor. I appreciate that. My question is there ever an exception to the notion that all feelings are valid? As in, when someone just is not perceiving a situation correctly and the emotional reaction is causing completely unnecessary distress or suffering? Or would you frame where the problem is differently and maintain total validation of feelings? Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, so two people are having an experience, and let's say I'm having an experience with my girlfriend. All right. I'll just call her Mandy. Okay. So Mandy and I are having an experience, and she's experiencing something, and I'm hurting her feelings from her perspective. And I'm trying to explain to her, Mandy, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this thing over here. And she's saying, you're invalidating my feelings. And what I'm trying to say is, sweetheart, I'm not trying to invalidate your feelings, and I'm sorry that I'm making you feel that way. So I would just flat out say, I'm sorry I'm making you feel that way. I'll give her the win, okay? But then I'll say, but now let's talk it down, okay? I validated your feelings, so sweetheart. However, I wasn't saying that, okay? What I was saying is actually this over here. Now, if Mandy isn't willing to see what I was saying, now we're seeing a recalcitrance, a reluctance to even be reasonable. Okay, that's okay if it's an 8-year-old child. That's acceptable behavior if it's a 10-year-old, all right? A sort of reluctance, a petulance, at least in the initial. But with an adult or even with a late teen, that's not acceptable. That there has to be a willingness in a relationship, there has to be a willingness and openness, and maybe not right away, but we have to be able to come back to it later, and they have to be open to, okay, I've acknowledged your feeling, all right? I'm willing to come over to your side of the fence. I'm willing to acknowledge, you're right, from your perspective, I definitely hurt your feelings, no doubt about it. I've got to be willing to see it from their perspective and acknowledge that from your perspective, I definitely hurt your feelings, no doubt about it. Now I need you to see it from my perspective, okay? I need you to see what I was trying to say. Okay, so I'm going to reread your question. Rob, listen up to make sure I'm reading Victor's question accurately.
Sir.
Is there ever an exception to the notion that all feelings are valid? Okay, as in, when someone just is not perceiving a situation correctly and the emotional reaction is causing completely unnecessary distress or suffering? Or would you frame where the problem is differently and maintain total validation of their feelings? Well, how I perceive a situation is a thought. A feeling is independent of a thought. That, in other words, and to say that there's one perception of a situation isn't quite accurate. In other words, Rob and I can have the same experience. We can both go on a vacation to Paris together, and I can have a completely different perception of that experience. And, maybe I'm having a good time, but I just found out right before we left that my brother has cancer. So yeah, we're having a good time, but mine is laced with the experience of the fact that I'm worried about my brother the whole time, right? But he's like, are you fucking kidding me? You were laughing the whole time. Yes, I was, but I was also troubled by my brother's experience. So anyway, just not perceiving it correctly. A person can perceive something however the hell they want to perceive it. But if we're going to have a relationship, a true relationship, whatever that is, a friendship, a working relationship, they have to be willing to at least see my side of the equation. And I have to be willing to see their side of the equation. One of the most compassionate people I ever met was my roommate. He and I were sharing a 1-bedroom apartment out in LA. One of the most exceptionally compassionate men I ever met, but he wasn't feeling compassion. He was intelligently compassionate. And what that meant was, in any situation, even though he wouldn't say, oh man, I feel so bad for you. That's horrible. God, I feel so bad. Here, let me give you a hug. He would say, you know what? I can actually understand why someone would feel bad in that situation. It was always logic. He could logic his way into compassion. It was the strangest thing, but he was the most compassionate. He could see the logic of compassion in any situation. I don't know if that helped, but feel free to fire back a follow-up question on that, Victor. Put it in as simple a language as possible. All right, and I'll get to it if I see it. All right. Steve Nelson asked a question on the positive attention thing that we were talking about earlier with regard to a child. But Steve now on Facebook is talking about it with regard to an adult and a significant other. Sven, how do we cope with not getting positive attention from a significant other as an adult? Okay, you're asking, in a way, you're almost asking two questions, even though you're asking one. You're saying, how do we cope with it? In other words, you're fundamentally saying, I know I'm not going to get the positive attention from my significant other. How do I cope with it? Okay, the way you cope with it, if that's the real goal. In other words, you're not saying my goal is to extract more. You're saying, how do I just cope with it? Basically, I'm accepting that I'm not going to get it. So how do I cope with it? The way you cope with it is the way we really cope with anything. We go inside of ourselves and we begin to do the work of flushing out all the pain, the fear, the fucking rage at the stupid bitch or the fucking asshole. You know, in other words, the anger, letting out all the anger, the pain, the shame, the sadness, the frustration, the immense doom. I'm stuck in this shit for the next 30 years or 40 years or 10 years, and journaling and flushing. And you've got to begin to go into it and make that your theme, that you're doing this regularly, because there's a lot in there. And the more you flush it, and the more you flush it, you're going to come to a state of resolution. You're going to come to a state of resolve, a state of acceptance, where you're not even, and it's not going to come immediately. Like, this is a process over many months, maybe even a year or so. But you're going to come to a state of acceptance. And it's not a forced acceptance where it's like, oh, I got to let go. Oh, I got to accept this. No, if you gotta, or I gotta figure it out, if you're like, I gotta do something, that you're not doing it. It's going to sort of creep in and overtake you, where you're going to realize I've grown into an acceptance of this, that it's okay. But it's not something you logic your way into. And so the way you cope with it is just by beginning to do the work of flushing out all the pain, the sadness, the fucking rage, all of it. However, if you are asking the other question, Steve, of how do I extract more positive attention from my partner, you fundamentally have to explicitly state your needs and stand firm in your needs and your wants for positive attention. Furthermore, I would ask you this question, Steve. If you and I were in counseling and I was counseling you on this, Steve asked the question, how do we cope with not getting positive attention from a significant other as an adult? That's a very fair question. And we all know that Steve is not the only person who has ever been in that situation in an adult loving relationship, right? We've all been in that situation where it's like, whoa, this person's pulling back, or this person isn't giving me the love we want. And so the question is, well, how do you fucking get the love you want? In all honesty, the question I would ask you is not how do you get the, I wouldn't give you a solution to getting that love from that person. I would ask you this question: how much love are you pumping into this person? And I'm not asking that as in, gee, maybe they're justified in not giving you more. Maybe you need to be giving more. No, just the opposite. I would say, are you giving too much? In other words, have you conditioned them? I'd come at this one first, and then I'd go at the other. I'd say, are you conditioning them to fucking give nothing and receive everything? Because the mere fact that you are on fucking Badass Counseling Live asking questions about a relationship, Steve, says that in all likelihood, you're a reflective person, concerned about your relationship, introspective, asking hard questions, says in all likelihood, you're probably not the dick in the relationship if there's a dick. I'm willing to bet, if Vegas would give me odds, I would think it would be a reasonable bet, maybe 2-to-1 odds, that you're probably a giver in your relationship. Now, I could be off on that, but think about it. This guy's on a fucking social media website where we're talking about deep fucking introspective fucking how to fix your relationship type shit. And a dickhead's going to come on here? Probably not. And pose a question like that? No, he's probably the giver. So, Steve, I would ask you, is it possible you have conditioned your lover to receive far more than she has to give or he has to give if you're gay? Is it possible? In which case, perhaps the problem and the reason you're not getting more positive attention is because you're giving too much. There's no pain point. There's no reason for your lover to give more. They're already giving, they're already getting everything and having to give nothing or very little. Rob, any thoughts on that one?
The dynamic between the giver and the taker is very complicated, and it's sometimes hard to tell if it's balanced or not. If you feel that it's balanced, well, that's okay. But if it's clear to you that there is an imbalance here, that's when you absolutely have to change.
Yeah. And so then to Rob's point, I would just ask you the question, what percent do you give and what percent do you receive in your relationship? And you can't fucking say 50-50. And I guarantee you, Steve, it's probably nowhere near 50-50, is it? I'm willing to bet you probably give 80% and she gives 20%, right? Right. So then you got to ask yourself the question, I wonder if her numbers of giving to you, positive attention to you, would increase if you decrease the amount of positive attention you're giving to her. In other words, it sucks to have to do, but if you treat it as more transactional. In other words, if you treated it almost as if you were back at the beginning of the relationship, where if somebody started pulling away or giving less, you started giving less. I mean, and that's what people should do at the beginning of the relationships. Don't keep investing in someone who's not investing in you. If someone starts pulling away, you pull away. If someone starts treating you poorly, pull away. Why? Because if you're a giver or a people pleaser, what's the reflex if somebody starts pulling away? If somebody starts treating you poorly, very often the reflex for a people pleaser or an extreme giver is to start giving more. That's the exact wrong thing. Because what you're doing is you're training that puppy to keep urinating in the house. It's like a puppy who pisses in the house and you say, oh, okay, keep doing it. Here, I'll piss over here too. That's basically what you're saying. But that's what people pleasers do when a person pulls away. I'll just love them more because then maybe they'll like me. Wrong. And that's what you're doing, Steve. I'm willing to bet on it. All right, next question. Okay.
Here's a simple question on YouTube, probably not a simple answer. It's from Mama Man Ray. And the question is, where does jealousy come from?
Jealousy is a form of longing, right? I want. And jealousy comes from I, and longing comes from I don't have. I want more, I don't have. And it also comes from fear. It comes from anxiety. I don't have, I fear that I won't ever get. And so I want to hold on to, I want to get and I want to hold on to. And it also comes from that if I don't have it, that means I am less than. That somehow your identity is tied up in having that Mercedes Maybach or that that pretty dress or that whatever it is. And so the jealousy is that and so this perception, it also comes from you were taught a belief that you're less than, that you're not good enough. And so if I could have that piece of jewelry or if I could have that job title, then I would be more. So somewhere in you, you have the belief that you're not good enough, right? So it's from some place of self-loathing and this fear that if I don't get more, I won't be more, that I have less value, that who I am is not good enough. So jealousy comes from a place of some form of self-loathing. All right, next question. There's a good one here that I want to take. Lego Lady 74. How do you teach your adult children to have boundaries within enmeshed grandparents? How do you teach your adult children to have boundaries with enmeshed grandparents? Well, my question to you, Lego Lady, would simply be this. Do you have boundaries with your parents? I'm assuming we're talking about your parents, either that or your in-laws. Do you have boundaries with them? And if not, if not, I would ask you the question, why don't you have boundaries with your parents? And then I would ask you, isn't it a bit odd that you expect your children to have boundaries with the very people you don't have boundaries with? Aren't they fundamentally doing what you modeled for them? And if you do have boundaries with your parents, why would your own children not have boundaries? But I would even ask you this. Okay, just so we're clear, I'm going to read the question again. Lego Lady 74, great question, okay? Ask the question, how do you teach your adult children to have boundaries with an enmeshed grandparents? Well, first I'd want to ask you this. Do they want to have boundaries? Do they see a problem? Whether they do or not, you see a problem. You are not liking how the grandparents, I'm going to assume it's your parents. You are not liking how your parents treat your children, your adult children. Okay? Or you are not liking how your in-laws treat your adult children. My question to you is simply this. Why are you not protecting your children from your parents? What's the reason? Why should they have to protect themselves from your parents? Isn't that your job? And if you're not, then aren't you fundamentally modeling to your children that they don't matter? That they're not important enough for you to protect them? And if they're doing it as an adult, isn't it reasonable to assume that they weren't protected when they were children? I'm not trying to be a dick here, and I apologize because I'm sure this hurts to hear, and I'm sure you want to wring my fucking neck and poke my eyes out, which I would completely understand. It would hurt, but I would understand logically. But if they're not protecting their own boundaries now, it would be a reasonable extrapolation to say that their boundaries were likely not protected when they were children, right? So they're just extending a form of self-treatment for how they were treated when they were younger. So who wasn't protecting them then and who's not protecting them now? It's fundamentally your job to protect them from your parents. And we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
You know, I've read so many self-help books, and I always get something good out of them. But when I dove into There's a Hole in My Love Cup, well, it changed me. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. My copy is very dog-eared and highlighted. Thanks, Sven, for writing it. I love There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and believe you will also. Order your copy at badasscounseling.com.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
And we are back with the Badass Counseling Show. All right. I've got a question here from Quinn Wynn. Quinn says, Sven, what do you do to de-stress? How are you taking care of your mental health? I just yell at people. And then I shovel snow. And no, I take time alone. I journal. I use a few different methods that I talk about in some of my books. Just the same stuff I tell you guys. Anything I'm counseling people on are tools that I've used myself. I don't tell anyone to do anything that I haven't used myself. I bike ride, but time alone is my go-to. So if I die alone, like in a nursing home, or if I spend my aging years in a nursing home, I'll be totally fine. I grew up in nursing homes. Literally, my dad was a clergyman, so he'd take me to Sunnyside Nursing Home outside of Lake Park, Minnesota, and he'd be visiting people, the shut-ins, and people in nursing homes, taking them communion and stuff, and I'd be sitting there talking to the old people and the drooling guy, and this and that, and I don't have any grand fear of nursing homes, so I'm fine with that, and I like being alone, so I guess that's kind of my thing. I don't know. Maybe I should start visiting nursing homes. All right, here we go. Lucinda Embry asked the question. Good to see you, Lucinda, a regular follower on Facebook. How do I know when I need to confront / hash something out with someone versus just journal it out? I would say this. Start with just journaling everything out. Just journal it out and then ask yourself the question, do I feel the need to talk to someone about it? That's all. And eventually, the more you journal everything out, you'll get better at sensing whether or not you actually feel the need to talk to someone. But the more you flush out, especially all the crud that's still in your cup from your past, the more you get all that out, the more your insides are going to settle down. And you're going to be just more present in the moment. You're going to be like, I don't really feel the need to talk about this one. And that's the thing, folks, is that if you've generally been a person who spouts off or talks a lot or is loud, and then you do the work of getting all the crud out, you're going to calm down. If you've been a person who's very, very quiet, and the more you get all the crud out, you're actually going to finally find your voice. And it sort of goes the other way. All right. I like this question. This is from Tracy Haynes. Tracy Haynes Kinder says, how do you start dating again after being in a relationship with an extreme taker? Okay. First thing you have to do is hopefully take some time alone. And I know every therapist says that, but they say it for a fucking reason. And the reason they say it is because you need to have some silence. You need to learn to have solitude. Don't just jump into the next relationship. All right. Why? If for no other reason, you're taking all the shit that you were, not just what was done to you, but the shit that you were, that you brought into your relationship and that sort of grew and sort of festered in that relationship is still in you. So you got to do the work of going inside of you and saying, what's wrong with me? What's going on inside of me? How am I hurting? What messages were taught to me by this person I was in this relationship with, this extreme taker? So you've got to do the self-healing work. So, if you get a chance, go into, there's a hole in my love cup. Use that as a tool to do your healing. All right. Some really deep, ugly ass, nasty, scary shit. All right. But moving more to your actual question, how do you start dating again after being in a relationship with an extreme taker? I'm going to tell you the single biggest thing that you need to do if you're going into restarting any new relationship, if you're starting dating again, whether you've been with an extreme taker or what have you. Want to know what you do? I want you to think of, I'm going to give you a simple little thing and play with it. 1-to-1. If you remember nothing else, remember 1-to-1 and play with it. 2-to-1, 1-to-3, 1-to-2, 3-to-1. All right. All that means is in the past, when we're young, what we often did, not everyone did this, but what we often did, I did this. All right. And that is we get into a dating situation and we just wait and we sort of hit that point. And then we take all our chips, like we're playing poker, Texas Hold'em, and we push all our chips into the pot. I'm all in, baby. Maybe it's after 3 weeks. Maybe it's after a month. Maybe it's after 3 months, whatever it is. Now I'm all in. And the thing is, that's when you're going to get fucked up. Okay? All I'm saying is just go 1-for-1, 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 1-to-3, 3-to-1, 1-to-4, 4-to-2. All that means is that you invest at the same level, roughly in the same ballpark that the other person is investing. And maybe sometimes you push in 4 chips and they only push in 2. Fine. But then you wait for them to push in maybe a chip and a half next time and you push in no chips. But then they push in 2 chips and you push in a chip. In other words, you're keeping it all in the same ballpark. If they stop pushing in chips, guess what you do? Stop pushing in chips. Why? Because that way you are staying in control of how much you are investing into a relationship. Because what so often happens is the red flags are happening and you're like, but he's got such a cute butt. Or, yeah, but man, she's so smart. I just love dating a smart woman. It's just great. I don't want to let go of this one. I'll just let that red flag go. Or, man, but I've been out of a relationship for so long. It's just so nice to have someone who likes me. Or, man, my parents will love this one. Whatever it is. And so we start making those mistakes. And if you've been with an extreme taker, guess what your inclination is going to be? Your inclination is going to be to start giving or to just let it slide when they blow off a date or when they don't text maybe quite as much. And you're going to be like, it's no big deal. Why? Because that's your habit. Or if the new person maybe, does text a lot, but they're still sort of talk over you in conversations and they don't ask about your day. And you're going to be like, yeah, he does talk over me and he doesn't ask about my day. But God, at least I've got someone who texts me throughout the day. It's so much better than my ex. Oh my God. And you're talking to your girlfriends and you're like, are you fucking kidding me? That's it? He texts you throughout the day. He still talks over you and treats you like shit. It's like that age-old one. Well, at least he doesn't beat me. It's like, really? That's your fucking criteria? Well, after you've been beaten, at least he doesn't beat me. But that's just it. When you've had the bar set so fucking low, it's just like, well, at least. No, that at least mentality. If you start going 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 1-to-3, then you don't have a low bar anymore. You've got to change how you approach it. That you are just staying in the zone of dating at roughly the same amount. And it never really leaves that. That you're both sort of pushing half in. When it comes time to push in, you're pushing in both half in. You're both pushing in roughly the same amount. Now, maybe one person says, I love you first, and you're comfortable with that. I'm comfortable saying I love you, even if they're not yet. Fine. I'm comfortable with that risk. But based on the amount that I've already pushed in and the amount they've pushed in, and based on the amount of healing I've done, I'm okay saying that. And I'm okay if they don't, offer that back or whatever it is. There may be times when you're comfortable pushing in more, knowing you may not get it back. But that's totally different from pushing in a whole bunch of chips willy-nilly and just, I'm putting all in. It's a big bet. I'm not sure. Do you understand the difference that I'm really going after here, Tracy? I think you do. All right, next question. Okay, one or two more here. You got one, Rob? All right, go ahead, Rob.
All right, Sven, over on YouTube, Smile LO6BJ says, how do I stop wanting my mom to validate my past abuse? She is extremely dismissive, especially about my ex. He was arrested for attacking me with a machete, but she is still dismissive of my feelings.
How do I stop wanting mom to acknowledge my past abuse? First of all, anytime you want something from someone, they have the power to make you miserable by withholding it. You are wanting your mom to acknowledge something. You're wanting your mom to give you something. Presumably, that your mom acknowledging that is your mom giving you a gift. It's your mom acknowledging your pain. It's your mom saying, you matter. I see you. What you have gone through is significant. I love you enough, and you are important. And she's not giving that. She doesn't want to acknowledge you. She doesn't want to say you're important. She's fundamentally saying, fuck you. I want power over you. What she's keeping you in is you are, in this case, the word is a supplicant. A supplicant, it's sort of a religious term, but all it means supplicant, S-U-P-P-L, supple. And it's another word, it's the root of another word, supply. You're wanting her to supply something to you. What? Love, acknowledgement, confirmation of your worth. And she's not doing it. And anytime someone has something we want, they have the power to make us miserable by withholding it. How do you make your mom give it to you? You can't. She's got you right where she wants you. And she's saying, fuck you. Fuck you. And until you reach a point where it's just like, I no longer want that. Basically what it is you will never let that go until you realize you're never going to get it. And she is willfully making you fucking miserable. Do you want to know why? Because I guarantee your mother knows all of the words in this sentence. Listen to this sentence, and you tell me if there are any of these words that your mother doesn't know. Sweetheart, I am so sad that you were treated that way, and I love you so much, and it is so wrong what was done to you. Do you think there are any words in that sentence that your mother does not know? In those sentences? Probably not. And it is no grand cleverness to construct those sentences that way with those words. That means she is choosing not to do so. It's not she can't. She chooses not to. In other words, what she's saying is, I don't care. I want to hurt you by withholding this. And the truth is, you don't want to admit that your mother doesn't care about your feelings, regardless of what your mother says about loving you or whatever she may say about the good stuff. Fundamentally, she is choosing to keep you in a position of supplication. She's choosing to maintain a power imbalance over you. And she's choosing to keep you in that position. And you fundamentally believe that the only way you are ever going to get your needs met, the only way you are going to get confirmation of your worth is by having your mom acknowledge your pain. And if she's not doing it in this situation with abusive people, including a boyfriend who wielded a machete coming at you, the only way you're going to get confirmation of your worth is for your mom to acknowledge it. And that's the flaw in your thinking. That the very person who took it from you initially, your mother and potentially your father, either by in the similar way or by allowing your mother to do that, the only way you're going to get your worth confirmed is by her. And fundamentally, the other way is by walking away from ever needing it from her again. That doesn't mean you have to end the relationship. I really don't care what you do with your relationship with your mother. But in the end, you've got to, if you want to do it yourself, you've got to walk away from ever believing that you need it from her. That's the flaw in the thinking. Is thinking that she is the only one that can confirm your worth truly. And at the point that you accept that you're never going to get it from her, it's simultaneously the saddest day of your life and also the most liberating day of your life. I actually did a video on this. It's on each of my social media pages. I also recently have put up non-cursing pages on most social media, curse-free. It's curse-free badass on most pages. On TikTok, it's Sven Official. For now, I'm going to tweak that name, but and I on like regular TikTok or whatever, I think it's the one where I'm in a black sweatshirt outside. It's dark on this exact thing.
Hey, Sven, she follows up, would confronting her help me come to acceptance?
Well, see, there's the thing. The question is, would it? My question, the follow-up question I would ask you, and her name is Sally, is that right?
The handle is Smile.
Yeah, Smile. The question I would ask you is, what would you want from that confrontation? And this is a question I get a lot of people saying, well, should I confront the parent who's not loving me the way I want to be loved? Or should I confront the parent with all the things that they did to me in the past? Or should I confront? And my question is, well, what's the goal? See, I'm willing to bet, Smile, that the thing you're wanting something from that confrontation. You're wanting her to say, okay, I understand, or gee, I'm sorry, or something like that. If you are wanting some sort of response, I would say to you, well, in one sentence or less, what is the one sentence response that you want from your mother? And here's the problem. If you are going into that confrontation, if you're considering confronting a parent, you're going into that confrontation wanting something, you're making a mistake. Why? Because you're giving them the power. And you're going to be frustrated because they're not going to give you, in all likelihood, the very thing you want. You're giving them the power to make you fucking miserable again by withholding the very thing you most want. Whereas, if you're just going in there because I need to say it and I want them to fucking hear it, and I don't give a shit what they say or don't say. I just want them to hear it from my fucking pie hole. Well, then go ahead and do it if you want. But the truth is, you don't need to say it. The question is, why not just, you can do all of this healing in your own journaling on your own and writing them letters that you don't send. That's generally what I do. And I flush it out of my system that way. And it works just as effectively. But if you want to confront the parent or the lover or the best friend or whoever it is you feel the need to confront, do it. But if you're wanting something from them, you are giving them the power to make you fucking miserable by withholding it. All right, I've got room for two more questions. Here they are. One's just a quickie. That's why I'm saying two. Flower X on TikTok says, do you have an audio version of your books? Yes, I do. But don't look for them on Audible. We took them off of Audible. They are only available at badasscounseling.com. So I have audio version of There's a Hole in My Love Cup. We have the audio version of Badass Counseling. Also on Badass Wisdom. Also available on Badass Counseling. And I've narrated both of them. We did them right here in the studio. Rob did all the mastering, et cetera, et cetera. And they're just lovely. Actually, the Badass Wisdom audiobook's just lovely. There's music with them, actually performed by yours truly, Rob. So for what it's worth, it's actually fantastic. Okay, uno more questione.
I have a short one here that's interesting.
Well, I want to do them both. Anna Bruce says, Sven, I was exactly halfway through your book and doing the journaling when life got in the way. And I had to pause my self-work, spend several months. I'm able to refocus again. Do you suggest that I pick up where I left off in the book or start from the beginning? Well, my response is, what do you want to do? I mean, my response, honestly, skim the beginning and then pick up where you left off. But the real response is this, and this should always be you guys' thing when it comes to your self-work. What's your own intuition saying? What do you want to do? Do that. And then if you want to change. Like this morning when I woke up and I was writing, I'm just finishing a book right now on cheating. And I woke up and I was writing in my favorite chair. And then at one point I got a little fidgety and I'm like, no, I want to sit over at my desk. So I went over to my desk and then I'm like, no, a fucking guy has to go outside. And so then I took my shit downstairs and I was sitting at the kitchen table. I was writing at the kitchen table and you just go with the flow, man. One of the best pieces of advice I heard with regard to books and your own sort of self-help work and so forth was, I think it was Joseph Campbell, who said, just follow the trail of breadcrumbs. I used to have a stack of 8 books next to my bed, like on each side. And I'd read a chapter of this and I'd put that down, roll over to the other side of the bed and start reading that chapter of that book or halfway into the chapter. And it's like, fuck, that's boring. And I'd pick up this, just go, man. Just listen to your own voice. Just listen to your own voice. Don't listen to mine. Fuck me. Listen to your own voice. All right, Rob, last question.
Yeah, I'd like to see how you unpack this one, Sven.
Oh, you said it was a short question.
Yeah, short question. Here it is. Debbie, 1958 on YouTube says, with a mentally ill father, can I expect the same from him as my narcissistic mother? Knew you'd like that.
Yeah, about the same. It's just that one is coming from a place of malice/selfishness, and one is coming from a place of brokenness. Well, they're both coming from a place of brokenness. The narcissistic mother is a brokenness of a different flavor. It's deep down inside, brokenness from way back. It also always starts in childhood, almost always. But that's one where she could change and she doesn't want to. The mental illness is of a completely different flavor, and that's a brokenness of the mind. But yeah, you can expect roughly the same treatment. And so then the real question ultimately is, what are you doing to protect you? And if I'm in a challenging but loving way, I would ask you the question, why are you interacting with these people? These people being your parents, of course, respectfully. And I mean, you pose this question, so I'm going to ask the follow-up question. Why are you interacting? And why are you interacting so much? Do you want to interact less? You don't have to interact less, but do you want to? In this situation, what do you most want to do? Not what do you most want to have happen. What do you most want to do? I'm not saying you have to do it, but what is it you most want to do? Answer that question. Write it out in one sentence or less. What do you most want to do? Again, not what do you passively want to have happen. Well, I want mom to confirm my worth. No, that's what you want to have happen. That's passive. What is the active? And once you write that out in one sentence, then ask yourself the question, well, what if I were to do it? And why aren't I doing what I most want to do? It's your fucking life, man. Well, Rob, any closing thoughts?
This was great. I always like our questions and answers. It's always interesting to me and helpful as well.
I agree. I love it. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, wherever you are tuning in from. It's great to have you here. This has been a really lovely episode of the Lightning Round of the Badass Counseling Show. Thank you to my team and to everyone who fired in their questions. On behalf of everyone, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.